Yes, sir. Let's do this thing, bro.
Cool. It says recording. Let me double check. So I'm
Wait,
not
can I
gonna
ask Ken a quick question?
go for it.
Ken, was your burrito absolute dog shit?
Good question.
Well, it tasted okay, but it upset my stomach.
Mine and Chris's was absolute dog shit, bro.
Oh,
Like
100%,
worst
bro.
red chili I've ever had, and mine didn't have cheese.
Yeah.
How are you gonna make a breakfast burrito without cheese, bro?
dang.
The
There's a
only bit of taste I got was the bacon. How about you, Chris?
same, bro.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it
That
was dog shit.
that was like gas station red chili, bro. It was not good.
Even Allsup's makes better red chili.
Oh, dude, seriously. Yeah, we had to vent that. We don't want to ruin the experience earlier, so we kept it to ourselves. But no, it was garbage, bro. So cool. So everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sleepwalkers Podcast. This is Chris, your host, along with Ken
Hey, everyone.
and Jared.
Konnichiwa.
And tonight we have a very special episode. We are talking about the suicide forest and all of its mysterious and mythical legends that accompany with it, also with some tragic stories. Please stick with us throughout the episode. Jared is going to come in with some great facts. So, as we talk about the suicide forest on tonight's podcast, there is going to be its native word, is what you would call it, Jared?
Aokigahara.
Which is the actual word for suicide forest. Suicide forest is actually the nickname for it. Reason Jared is pronouncing it for me is because I do not want to butcher that, and I'm not going to even attempt it. So every time you hear it, it's going to be Jared's voice. So thank you, Jared, for doing that for us.
I got you,
Uh,
man. I'm a quarter Japanese. I'm probably butchering the name as well, but I'm doing my best.
Hey, man, it's better than just completely just battering it at this point. So cool. So Suicide Forest is located northwest of the majestic Mount Fuji with a sprawling 13.5 square miles of.
Aokigahara.
The suicide forest is so thick with foliage that it's known as the Sea of Trees. Mount Fuji is a mecca for Japanese culture. The volcano brings peace, goodwill, and prosperity, and in many cultures, volcanic territory is very good soil for agriculture and crops, and it is believed volcanoes tend to have good luck properties according to ancient literature, but as of recently has had a more sinister purpose. This Japanese landmark's horrific history has made the woods a fitting location for this spooky horror film, The Forest. Untold visitors have chosen this place, notoriously called the Suicide Forest, as a setting for their final moments, walking in with no intention of ever walking back out. The Sea of Trees, also named as the Suicide Forest, has claimed as many as 25,000 suicides since 1971. It has gotten so bad that as of the year 2000, the local media and government stopped reporting about it as to stop feeding into the reputation that has grown throughout the years and try to curb the many deaths that occur here. Many people believe the chances of you simply walking through the forest, you're most likely walking yards away from a suicide victim. So, the basic layout of the suicide forest is thousands of people with the intention of ending their life have entered the forest. There's a lot of theories and legends surrounding this. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this over to Jared so that he can better share his knowledge about this information. So, Jared, what do you know about the suicide forest? Give us some knowledge.
So, just so the audience has a better understanding of me, I'm a quarter Japanese and I've been to Japan 6 times. And I've actually been to the bottom of Mount Fuji. I haven't been to the actual suicide forest, like inside of it. I've been around it. So, as you first mentioned with the Buddhist monk, I believe that the first reported volcanic eruption was in 864 AD. And that is supposedly that eruption is what created the such vast and dense tree growth. But in that forest, it's very eerie because a lot of the trees have roots that are twisted, turned. Most of the trees are twisted and turned as well, so it gives it a very eerie feeling. But this forest is world renowned for its suicide rate, and You know, looking back on the history of Japan, suicide in a different context of what it's used for today. You know, it started as a samurai act, you know, death before dishonor. You do something dishonorable and you take your own life. And that act is known as seppuku. And that was the samurai way, to where, you know, after that era kind of shifted, you know, famine and dishonor and people not wanting to deal with the elderly, it became a forest where people would take the elderly and leave them there to die.
Hmm.
You know, as sad as it is to say, it's history. You know, no matter how dark you want to look at it, that's the literature that's based around that.
Wow.
And a lot of the people now that commit suicide in Aokigahara is because they're not killing themselves for the samurai way. They're killing themselves because they're not adapting to normal society. There's a huge curve in modern day. You know, Japan is very, you're either really have a good business going for you or you work a mundane life, you know, and I've seen it firsthand going on the shuttles, going on the trains to get from place to place. You see these poor people that are dressed up in suits every day and they just look miserable. They're falling asleep on the trains. And most of these people that just work the same desk job every single day, it becomes such a mundane life that suicide to them is that much brighter of an outcome. And a lot of them choose the suicide force because of its rich history. And you know, there's a lot of things that I'm going to get into later on down the line, but I'm going to give it back to Chris and Ken to kind of expand on what they think about it.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Jared. So, Ken, what's your thoughts behind this? Do you think, I know we'll talk about this a little bit later, but do you think that there is something drawing these people towards a suicide forest, or do you think that it's just become so mainstream popular that these people are just doing it because everybody else is doing it?
Yeah, I said, like when Jared was talking about the samurai warriors, I saw when I was looking up, doing a little research on this, that they would rather commit suicide than be captured by their enemies, and that was an act of honor back in those days. But yeah, now I think it's has to do with a lot of depression, because they find a lot of people that have been hung, or they find the rope that they were hanging themselves with, like just still hanging there or cut. So maybe they change their mind. They find a lot of pills. So I think a lot of people are overdosing. And when Jared was painting the picture with the trees, there's areas where I think you can go that are regular, like hiking trails, but then there's a sign or maybe multiple signs that they don't really want you to go past a certain point, which is where all the people go to end it, because it's really easy, I think, to get turned around in there. The main trail fades away, and that's where they find all those ropes or lines to follow and stuff like that.
And to add to what Ken just said, it is very common for the people that are unsure about their suicides to enter that part of the forest where it's easy to get lost.
Mm-hmm.
And they either tie a rope to a tree or tie tape, and they create an entire line of that tape to their tent, so that if they change their mind, they can make their way back to the exit.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm just adding to that. You know, I've done a lot of research on this. So
yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, when I was watching videos, it's like kind of a spider web area in some areas, people crossing over other people's lines. And yeah, it's really strange, like Jared to say, in case they change their mind, they can find their way back out to the main trail, but it's pretty crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Jared, there was a couple things that I wanted to touch with you real quick, something that you brought up that I find intriguing. I guess the first one is, you know, you did mention the culture, the work culture that's going on there. In your opinion, do you think this is the biggest driver towards it, or do you think there could be another reason?
No, I really do. A personal belief, I really do think that is the biggest driver, because I've spent a lot of time on transit with many of these people, and these poor people work their butts off. They wake up 4 a.m, get on a train, and they have to cross multiple trains. It's not just one train. Say for example, they're going from Uenohata to Hachioji, and then Hachioji, they have to cross over to a different train to get to Shinjuku or forgive me, Tokyo. Okay. And these people go on the trains, they work all day in an office job that is very mundane, very boring. And all they have to look forward to is maybe a ramen shop at the train station. And I've literally seen it. People, grown men, just in a suit and tie, falling asleep, like standing up, holding onto a rail on the train. Very mundane lives. And I think that there's also a big issue with normal relationships in Japan. Everything is all online. I'm almost sure, I've done a lot of research on this. The percentages of people having children is really, really going low. So there's not a lot of human to human interaction. And, personally, I do believe that is one of the biggest causes, is because if we're not happy, we might not love what we do as a career, but we don't work to live. Or we work to live. We don't live to work, if that makes sense, And a lot of these people, that's all they got. They live to work, and they have very boring lives, and there's nothing to look forward to, and that's not a life to live. And, coming from such a strong-minded society, a lot of these people feel like failures. They look at the rich history of what the Japanese are from the samurai days, and now a lot of these people are sitting in an office just doing nothing. And I do not condone it. I don't believe that is the way to go, but at the same time, I'm not in that situation, and I feel for them. I really felt a lot of sorrow as a young man seeing these poor people on transit just falling asleep, standing up, looking miserable. And that's all I have to say about that.
Definitely. No, thank you for sharing. Ken, a lot of it was brought up in Jared's, what Jared talked about too is, and I think you brought it up as well, is the whole aspect of them tying the rope in hopes to eventually change their mind and possibly make their way back. And I've kind of read this online somewhere. I want to know what you think about it. These people that have the hopes of leaving, do you think that there is some type of atmosphere or a vibe going on in the forest that just finally compels them to do it? Meaning they were probably not sure to begin with, obviously, because they tied that line, but there's something lingering in the air, some type of atmosphere, or whatever you want to call it, that just eventually just changes their mind for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there is something about the area. I mean, I don't want to call it trendy, but it's like a place that, it's popular for. I mean, it also has like a lot of beauty there too. I think there's like a cave system and a lot of, hiking trails that are just open to everybody, and they just, it's a tour attraction. But then when you intentionally go into this area, it's really quiet. It also has like another nickname. I know there's a couple, Blue Tree Meadow. I don't know if you guys saw that anywhere, but so that's more of a peaceful sounding setting. But yeah, there's like there's volunteers and police that patrol, like Suicide Watch patrol all the time. And I think people go in there, they're not sure what they want to do. So maybe they just go in there to think. Maybe they have a lot of debt and they don't know how to deal with it. And it's probably a lot of depression, like I was kind of saying a little while ago. Or like serious illnesses, kind of like Jared brought up earlier. Like they just go in there and like figure out how to deal with it or just give up, I guess. And I think it's good to have that the volunteer Suicide Watch people, because they can just look for tents, and then they can go up to the tent. If there's someone in it, they can just strike up a conversation, and maybe that's all the person needs to change their mind. It's a little human contact.
Definitely.
But yeah, it seems like yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, when I was doing some research, there was a guy that had found a body that was just had the clothes on it, and it was just a skeleton, and they weren't showing it, but they did show a little bit of the like shin, but it still had a shoe on it. And it was just crazy to see
Definitely.
that they don't know of a better way, or they don't seek the help. And I mean, it's a problem everywhere.
Definitely.
But this area has been pointed to for like an area that it happens a lot. So that's kind of what it's known for. Not the beauty that's in the woods. And oh, you just go in there and you're not sure what you're going to do. You don't have clear thoughts on whatever problems you have. And I guess it's really quiet there. I mean, it's, probably a lot of the events that have happened there might linger in the air. And yeah, it's a really odd epidemic that's going on.
Right. And you could totally see that. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves. Jared, so I kind of brought this up with Ken, but I want to know what you think, and I'm sure you're going to get to it eventually. But in your opinion, is there something that is drawing these people specifically to this location, that some type of energy or some type of spirit that's drawing them over there? Or, do you think it's just because people already plan on killing themselves, that they already see other people doing it there and they figure, why not me too?
Well, in my honest opinion, I am a very positive person, but to look at the circumstances that these people face, in my honest opinion and in my honest belief, I feel that the people that are contemplating suicide and choosing this location see that so many people have done it there, and they're in such a bad state of their mind that they believe truly that this attraction and this location brought so many people to their peace that they're feeling. Because no one feels exactly what we do, but a lot of people that are in a very bad mental state and feel like there's no one there for them, they probably have similar thoughts and similar feelings, not identical, but they probably look at these people and think like, hey, what if these people did it because this is where they found their peace at? Like Ken was talking about, they find tents of people that are still sleeping in there trying to decide. A lot of these people are indecisive. A lot of these people are just have it bad in life. Everyone has a story. That's just what I believe. I believe that a lot of people look at this location and think that they're so lost in life that they look at all the other thousands and thousands of victims and think that these people found a little bit of peace in what they were feeling at that point in time. And that might be one of the main deciding factors for them. And I don't know if it's just their train of thought, and it's beautiful, like the pictures that you see in there, like in my opinion, it's not spooky, it's beautiful. When do you see trees that twist and the roots to them that twist up and out, inside and outside of the ground, weaving in and out of each other? But a lot of these people, I think, are just completely lost, and they're looking for at least some type of closure. And us as humans, we tend to look at group situations. We want to be a part of the group, and they see a huge group of people that quote unquote found peace in that forest, so they go there and contemplate and make that decision on their own.
Absolutely. And you could definitely obviously kind of get that feeling too when you look at everything as a whole. I was going to go into theories, Jared, but I don't want to step on your toes. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to this?
I don't. To me, it's just such a. Might have started with the Buddhist monk that died, and possibly other monks followed in his suit. But to me, it's just so tragic. And something that I wanted to add to that is, Japan's really trying to be proactive about solving this issue. And the first sign, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the first sign, when it's translated to English, says that your life is a gift from your parents. Please think about your parents, siblings, and your children. And that in itself is just so heartbreaking, because how many thousands of people see that sign and they just don't think about it. They go and they still do it. And in my opinion, there's not many theories that I can say, because, I've been to that forest, and not inside of the actual suicide forest. I've been to the base of Mount Fuji. And, I have personal ties to Japan in the sunny parts of the bottom of that forest, me and my family would pick a plant that's called warabi, and it grows about 3 foot tall, and it's found throughout Japan, but in my opinion the best crop comes from the bottom of Mount Fuji. And they use it in gohan or rice dishes and mochi dishes. And to me it was just super sentimental because I understood the impact that the forest had on life, and it was just so strange that the best crop would come out of such a tragic place. And I just want to add that in. That's a little personal aspect that I have to it, and that's why it makes me so heartbroken and so inspired to try to bring awareness to any of our listeners that not only is the suicide forest a big hotspot for suicide, but any type of suicide is, you can always reach out to people. You can always, never feel alone, and that's the biggest thing. Your life, anyone's life is worth more than any amount of money can surpass, because you can't buy a life. I just want to add that into it.
No, that's definitely good information to share. So being that you've actually visited, I know you've never been into the forest, but the fact that you've visited Mount Fuji itself, did you feel, how does it feel being there? Was there like an energy type to it? Or, obviously I'm sure it's magnificent, but, do you recall anything like that?
I just, I was a young man. I was about, I believe I was 9 to 10 years old when we were picking those. And, my family in Japan, they're Buddhist. And so they honor the dead. And so we would bring fresh food with us and put it in a traditional bowl and light incense and, just create a good environment around us. And just wish that the dead were at peace, because we weren't in the forest, but my family understood the magnitude of all the lives that got affected because of that forest. You know what I mean? And so it was very calm. It's beautiful to look up the mountain, but it's also very eerie to be a young kid and not fully grasp what effect suicide has on people, but still feel the eerie feeling of just sorrow, just the stillness. And my family is very respectful and has always been, and just their respect and their attitudes completely changed when we're there, just super respectful and just thankful for our lives. And yeah, that's how it was.
Awesome.
Did you know about the forest when you were younger and you went there? Like, had you heard about it?
Yeah. On the way there, my grandma kind of, she explained to me that it is known as where people go and take their lives. Me and my personal family, I've had one of the pillars of my life. I never met him, but one of the pillars of my family took his own life. And so I feel like my grandma really wanted to make it a point to let me know like how much it affected our family and affected every single person that took their own lives in that forest, and so it made me create a whole new respect. And especially at a young age, I really grew a whole type of different knowledge and appreciation of life at that point, because it's beautiful over there, but somehow people are so low in their lives that they find them one of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion, and decide to take their own lives. And it's not something to be taken lightly,
Absolutely. And definitely thank you for sharing that with us. So I kind of want to jump into like some of the theories behind it. And with this one, I'm going to go ahead and start with Ken. I'm going to bring this over to you, Jared, too. So obviously the suicide forest sits at the base of Mount Fuji. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, but online, many people believe that the suicide forest sits as the divine juncture between this world and the next. Ken, do you believe this? Do you think that this is a likely explanation for the reason for everybody's attracted to this? Or do you think it's just...
I don't know. I think there's probably a core group of people that are troubled and, they're maybe thinking about it anyway, so they end up going there. There's probably a lot of people that are interested in what it looks like, so they just go and visit just to see what, they're not necessarily probably looking for somebody, but for any evidence or anything. They just want a firsthand experience of going to a place that's famous for this tragedy.
So do you think it's kind of like a gateway between this
Oh,
reality and something else?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really know a lot of the history, but and like Jared was talking about earlier, like in the 19th century, and the Japanese mythical practices were to take people there that were sick and elderly.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's a, I don't know.
Like
I
a
just feel like it's just a place, regular place. People see it as
just
beautiful. Other people see it as an opportunity to go and figure out what their next step is. And I don't know. I haven't come across what you're about to talk about, I think.
like a portal or something, I guess,
Yeah,
what you're trying to.
I haven't seen anything about that, but I mean, from watching videos and reading, it's a special place. Like Jared was painting the picture of the trees, and it's super green, lots of moss, lots of volcanic rock under the moss. Like it's a really interesting looking place from
Definitely.
the pictures I've seen. But yeah, I don't
Uh,
know. I think it's just a regular place, and people use it for different things. It just has a lot of bad
just
connections.
just happens to have a lot of deaths, unfortunately, tied to it and stuff.
Yeah, there's probably a lot more to it than I know about, but
Yeah,
you know,
I understand. No, man, good. Jared, so in your opinion, do you believe, according to some of the theories, that the Mount Fuji is some type of divine juncture between this world and the next, kind of like a gateway?
So when we talk about this, I want every one of our audience to know that's absolutely nothing but respect, and we're just speculating at this point of our show. I do find it odd that, you know, I I believe that many of our religions correlate with each other in one way or another. And something that I've always wondered that was never answered was how come historically Aokigahara, the suicide forest, is was known as a place for monks to starve themselves to death. And I don't know if it was just a trend that continued to follow, but why did they choose such a beautiful place in the earth, in the world, at the bottom of such a beautiful mountain to do so? Mount Fuji, I believe, is the highest peak in Japan, and uh, I don't know if it is a gateway. I do find it odd that the monks just out of nowhere made that territory the spot for the monks to starve themselves to death. But in Japanese folklore, the ghosts of those who fell to suicide wander limbo in the forest, not able to find a place to rest. And a lot of the searchers who volunteer to go into the forest and look for people have also accounted of seeing people at unrest. Their bodies are hanging, but the spirits are still roaming around the forest, and
Hmm.
it's so sad. It's so much sorrow and grief. That is it a portal, or is it just that people were so unrest when they passed that they can't accept their whatever is awaiting for us at the end of our time? They can't accept it, and their souls just roam the earth, and so that's my take on it.
That's actually interesting that you put it that way, is they don't accept what's next and they're just continuously wandering, which I find fascinating. Not the fact that they do it, but just that thought itself.
Which, in my opinion, I would rather know that I was in hell and burn in hell than my soul wander throughout a forest undecided on the decision that I ultimately made at the end of the day that costed me
Mhm.
my soul from my body. You know what I mean? And it's a
Absolutely.
weird topic, but this is that podcast to talk about those things.
Definitely. Absolutely. And trying to just expand on possibilities of everything really is the whole purpose of this. And, um, we don't intend to highlight this, to enlighten the situation of suicide, or nor do we endorse it, as Jared and Ken mentioned, but we, just the whole aspect, the myth and the legend behind it, of course, is what interests us the most. And obviously, Jared mentioned, if you will, there's services and things of that nature, to, if you do feel like this, to get help, to talk to somebody, if even those few moments can absolutely save someone's life. So, that being said, I kind of wanted to go into another theory. I guess I'll start with Ken again. So many people that have survived those suicide attempts claim that demonic forces have called them there, and some even claim to have been dragged to the forest. In your opinion, Ken, do you feel like this is something viable, or do you think it was maybe like, I hate to say this, but like an excuse for why they were there in the first place?
I guess I would say viable. And people are depressed. It's a it's a big deal, and it's a huge issue like everywhere.
Hmm.
There's a lot of it going on. You never know what anybody's thinking, really. And so they could be carrying around a lot of baggage, and there are answers for it. But I think when you get overwhelmed, sometimes your body takes over your physical and your mental state. I don't know. It's hard to talk about. Anybody that's done the research and talks about it, they'll kind of say the same thing. It's real disturbing, but it happens. And maybe part of it is why people talk about this is to let people know that they're not the only ones feeling like this. There is help out there, whether it's meds or talking to somebody. So if this episode can help one person, it's totally worth it. So. And
Absolutely
then,
agree.
yeah, and then there's the whole other part of not knowing, about the suicide forest in the first place. And yeah, it's an odd thing to research, but it's important to bring to light too,
Right.
because there are answers. Things take time to figure out, but yeah, it's a tough one.
And just like our podcast, just like our YouTube channel, we actually we explore locations, and no matter the story behind them, we find it just fascinating, the legends and the myths behind it, and that seems to be like a recurring theme with us at this point, is the places we go and the places that are there. It just seem to fascinate us. So that being said, Jared, in your opinion, these suicide attempt survivors, do you feel that they have really been summoned there via demonic force, being that it's already a spiritual place, or do you feel that it's kind of something they said so that people don't look bad at them for being there in the first place?
So I believe that maybe some of these people feel like they're being called or dragged into the forest, but at the end of the day, with trying to understand why the pillar in my family did what he did, I truly believe that a lot of these people feel alone, and they're trying to find comfort in other people and feeling comfort in being a part of something. And they just felt like all these other people, maybe they found peace at the end of the tunnel when they did what they did in the forest. And maybe that might be what some people call demonic forces calling them into the forest. But I truly believe that when you're at the lowest point in your life, you're trying to find the closest thing to companionship that you can find, whether that's with people that are living and breathing, or, and this is just human psychology. You see people that commit crimes because they're inspired by the Ted Bundys, the Ed Gaines, the what's his name, Dormos or Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer. And I just feel that these people are absolutely so lost that they try to look into the psyche of people that have taken their lives, and they just feel like they have to do it because somehow those people found some type of peace.
Definitely.
And that's, if you want to look at it as a demonic force or being dragged into the forest, and that's just my personal take, you know.
No, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I kind of turned a little grim with this episode, so I'm gonna try to enlighten it, or not enlighten it, and try to, you know, bring it home. Is there anything else that anybody want to share?
No, I think we covered a lot of it, and
Okay.
the
Yeah.
importance of like reaching out to people that need it. I mean, there is help out there, but yeah, it's never easy to probably get it started to get that
Mhm.
help.
Yeah, and I think that this episode is probably one of our most challenging due to the impact that COVID has had on us as a society. Suicide rate has gone through the roof in America. And I think that this is such a challenging episode because all three of us have had interactions with people that have lost people that are close to them by suicide. And this is such a tough topic, but it's also such a big topic. And it's a very, very difficult thing to talk about. But I'm glad that our podcast can come together and talk about what's going on in this forest, and not only that, but offer help and be able to maybe reach out to that one person and give a different view. And that's the awesome thing about this podcast is we talk about the unknown, but us as a crew can come together and talk about one of the most tragic things that can ever happen in anyone's life is losing a loved one to suicide. And we can talk about it and give our thoughts and, possibly help at least one person.
Jared, you're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that so much with us. This was definitely one of our more darker episodes. I know we always delve into the unknown, the mysterious, and the I guess you can call it spiritual. I know I always stick these topics as like, conspiracy, paranormal, whatever you want to do it, but just the fact that we can share this, like, I think it's great. And like I said, I don't really have a general agenda for us. It's just, I guess, kind of see where it goes as we talk. You know what I mean? That's what I think. I appreciate you guys being real and sharing and not holding back. And Jared, I appreciate you sharing those stories with us, man. And that's really great of you to do that for us.
For sure, man. Like, you guys are my really close allies in life, and my grandpa was my closest companion in life. And his father ultimately made the decision to take his life when my grandpa was 17 and hung himself in his own bar. And just that action completely changed the whole progression of my grandpa's life. And, because of that, I'm here. And so I really had firsthand knowledge of how much a suicide itself can affect an entire generations. You know what I mean? So that's why I was super passionate about this topic, is because so many people don't understand the absolute magnitude of taking your life. And I don't take that away from them. I'm not feeling exactly what they're feeling. I couldn't imagine what these people are feeling when they decide to do that. If this podcast and me, at least me talking, if someone doesn't even say it out loud and they're thinking about it and they can at least hear this podcast and have a different outlook, then that's worth it, bro. And that's what I love about this platform.
Definitely. Oh yeah, man. I agree 100% with you. So that, we talked a lot about tonight, suicide and the things behind it. And we kind of don't want to leave the episode hanging on that notion. The episode got a little dark there, which is why we're here to discuss it and have open conversation about it. And I believe Jared did an amazing job talking about this. And we kind of want to leave everybody on like a good note. We wanted to thank everybody for listening tonight, or wherever you are, whether you're on your way to work or sitting there at your house listening to this. We appreciate you, and we hope that you can continue listening with us on this journey as we're going through. We're trying to reach out to as many broad topics and everything into the unknown as possible, and kind of hope bring it to light and bring that thinking into everybody. With that being said, if you're listening to us right now, we wanted to say that we hope that if you have any of these thoughts, any of these intrusive thoughts, or you feel this way at all, to please seek professional help, to seek help in someone that you know, someone that you love. Talk to somebody, anybody, please. And we kind of wanted to share the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. This is the United States National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I'm not really sure how, if you happen to be in another region of the world, we're not really sure how that works, but we do encourage you to seek the help that you need, or the help that you just talking to somebody. I heard somebody say the other day, we actually have a very close friend of ours that just recently had somebody that they knew that was very close to them actually commit suicide. And he believes that if somebody had just spent a few extra minutes with him, or if he had waited just 2 extra minutes, this intrusive thought would have left his head and he would still be here with us today. And if that's the truth, I heavily encourage everybody to take a few extra moments and talk to somebody first, and maybe that'll be the best deterrent for this. We also wanted to, if you can, when you're watching this episode, give us a like. If you could comment on us, we're available on Instagram, we're available on Twitter, we're available on YouTube, we're available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Is it Spotify podcast? Do you guys know?
Just Spotify, I think. Is
it just Spotify? Okay. Yeah, we're available on Spotify as well. We're gonna try to include the links on every one of our social media platforms. That way you can have better access to it. That's it from me. Ken, Jared, do you guys have anything you want to share with everybody before we go?
No, just thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. And like Chris said, don't be a stranger. Don't hesitate. Your life is precious, and we want to thank and give our love to every single one of our followers. And y'all have a good night.